An engine oil, also known as motor oil, is a lubricant used to lubricate the components of the engine while operating. We have been given the task to formulate an engine oil as part of the Chemistry 1 course assignment. But before that, let's start off with the basic chemistry principles involving our research.
So today I will be explaining to you about one of the properties of liquid, which is the surface tension. So at the interior, all the molecules are attracted by all the other sides, but at the surface, the molecules are only attached below, therefore it experiences net attraction downwards. So to increase the attraction and become more stable, the surface molecules move into the interior. So when this happens, a liquid surface has the fewest molecules and will automatically be have the smallest surface area. So when they have the smallest surface area, the surface behaves like a taut skin. So to increase surface area, molecules have to move upwards by breaking attractions at the interior. So the given unit for surface tension is joule per meter squared, and by that I can conclude that the greater the force, the more energy is needed to increase the surface area, and the surface tension will also increase.
On to the next property of liquid, which is capillarity. So what is capillarity? Capillarity is the rising of a liquid against the pull of gravity through a narrow surface. So the narrow space here is the tube. So usually the tube is made out of glass, and the major compound of glass is silicon dioxide. So usually in a narrow space, there are competition between intermolecular forces. So the intermolecular forces within liquids is called cohesive force, and the intermolecular forces between the liquid and the tube walls is called adhesive force. So there are differences between water and mercury in a tube, in a glass tube. So why does water have concave meniscus in a tube? And why does mercury have a convex meniscus in a tube? So this one is like this. So why this happens to water and why this happens to mercury? So this is because the adhesive H bonding forces with O atoms of silicon dioxide, it causes the water molecules to the thin layer of water, the thin film of water to creep up the wall. At the same time, there is cohesive H bonding force between water that makes the surface taut. So the combination of the adhesive and cohesive forces cause this meniscus to become concave. This one is mercury. Why mercury has convex meniscus? So it is because the cohesive forces among the mercury are metallic bonds. So this metallic bond is stronger than the dispersion adhesive forces. So the surface atom being pulled towards the interior causes the tension to become high, and it drops the level of mercury, so it becomes convex.
So the next property is viscosity. So viscosity means the resistance of a fluid to flow. So there are two factors that will affect the viscosity of a fluid, which is temperature and molecular shape. So I'll be explaining to you first about the effect of temperature. Viscosity will decrease when heating. So faster moving molecules overcome intermolecular forces easily. So resistance to flow will decrease. So the next is the effect with molecular shape. So small and spherical molecules make contact and pour easily, while long molecules make more contact and become entangled and pour slowly. So in the topic that we are going to discuss about, which is engine, they use polymeric viscosity improvers. The oil will warm the molecules, these few molecules, and become long strands. So when they become long strands, they will entangle with a long hydrocarbon. So it increases the viscosity to compensate for the thinning of the oil due to heat. So the last property I'll be talking about is the solubility of oil. Most lubricant additives are oil-soluble materials. In fact, many are prepared using oil as a solvent. So for storage stability and handling reasons, many additives are made of 45 to 90% of concentrates of active material in oil.
So this is the structure of polar additive molecule. So this one is the long hydrophobic tail, which is oil soluble, and this one is the smaller head, which is hydrophilic, and the different solubilities in oil makes them to exist colloidally as inverse cells.
Alright, so traditional lubricant base stocks are derived from distillation and solvent extraction of crude oil, which is unrefined petroleum. Alternatively, the crude oil may be more highly refined using processes such as cracking and hydrotreating to produce higher quality base stocks. As for our engine oil, we will be incorporating polyalpha olefins and esters in order to produce higher quality formulations. So let's move on to polyalpha olefins. What is a polyalpha olefin? It is a polymer made by polymerizing alpha olefins. Its name can be abbreviated to PAO. It belongs to group 4 oils, which is fully synthetic, which means polyalpha olefin is a fully synthetic chemical compound. So alpha olefin is a more specific type of olefin, which is another term for alkene. Hence, alpha olefin is an alkene where the carbon-carbon double bond starts at the alpha carbon atom. For example, as you can see here, the double bond is between the first and the second carbon in the molecule. Now moving on to esters. What is esters? Esters, or we can say ester oil, is a synthetic base oil which has been chemically synthesized. Typically, ester oils are used in passenger car air conditioning compressors, refrigerators, and other industrial applications. Why we are using esters is because esters are stable molecules. They provide good solvency, and they also provide very good low temperature and high temperature performance in engine oils.
So one of the oil additives are the friction modifiers. So the power loss from friction in internal combustion is due to the viscous drag of the lubricant, and the friction loses through heat generation under mixed and boundary lubrication condition. And the friction can be reduced by decreasing the viscosity of the oil, but only to the point where the lubricant film is maintained, which keeps the parts moving separated. The lubrication works by using a film of polar molecules which strongly absorb on the metal surfaces. The drag caused by this lubrication depends on how easily the surface slide past one another. And to reduce the energy loss by the friction is by using the friction modifiers. So by definition, the friction modifiers are actually the base fluid itself. But we need another additional friction modifiers. So generally, we will use the straight hydrocarbon chains with a polar head group such as amines, carboxylic acids, phosphoric and phosphoric acids. So the polar head groups are attracted to the metal surface, while the long hydrocarbon tail are solubilized in the oil. So the nature of the polar head group and the hydrocarbon chain have the strong impact on the contribution to the friction reduction. So as we can see, we choose to use the polyol esters of fatty acids, which is the glycerol monoolate, as our friction modifiers. So these compounds will react on the metal surface. This will form another compound which have the structure that will allows the slide and the shear to occur. So the next oil additives are the forming agents. The presence of additives can slow up the release of gases sent into the lubricating oil. So this may result in foaming and air entrainment. The foaming, especially in modern high-speed and high-temperature engines, may result in diminished engine reliability. The foam is countered by adding tiny amounts of anti-foam, usually the silicon chemicals such as polydimethylsiloxane, commonly used as anti-foam agents. Since the materials are not very oil soluble, they can separate from the oil onto the surface of air bubbles and can cause the air bubbles to rupture by reducing the surface tension. So the common dosage of the foaming agents are from 10 to 100 parts per million in oil.
Detergents reduce deposits and provide anti-corrosion and anti-rust protection to the engine. Deposit precursors, being oil insoluble, have a greater affinity for detergent molecules than oil molecules. They are attracted to detergent micelles and trapped within them. Thus, they are kept in solution in the oil and cannot settle out to form deposits in the engine. As for our engine oil, calcium sulfonates will be used as the metal detergent. Ashless detergents have longer hydrocarbon tails than the detergents, but function similarly in that they form micelles which trap deposit precursors such as soot or sludge. They can attract and hold at least 10 times more sludge particles than a detergent micelles. Polyisobutylene succinimide will be used as the ashless dispersant in our engine oil.
Another type of lubricant additives added are the inhibitors. Inhibitors are used to prevent, minimize, and reduce wear, oxidation, corrosion, rust, friction, and foam. It reduces the wear of the components inside the engine. It slows down the degradation of the engine oil inside the engine by preventing oxidation. It minimizes corrosion and rust of the components in the engine, and it reduces friction by providing a thin layer between the moving components of the engine. We will be using one of the main chemical families of inhibitors, which are the zinc dialkyl dithionphosphates, also known as ZDDP.
Now, allow me to explain about this additive, which is power point depressants. This additive acts to lower the power point of an oil, which is the lowest temperature which the oil flow when cooked. This additive is important for the proper performance of lubricants in cold climate. It is important in the country which has 4 seasons such as in Europe and anything else. And polyalkyl acrylides is the example of our chemical compound that we'll be using for the power point depressants. So now let's move on to the next additive, which is viscosity modifier. So upon researching, it is possible to create a formulation which can satisfy the requirement for the SAE, which is viscosity classification system, to allow the engine lubricant to be used both at low and high temperature. We discovered that polyalkyl methacrylides can be used in both situations, but it also has synergetic effect with a power point depressant. It will have synergetic effect with power point depressant, creating it can be used during both low and high temperature.
In conclusion, this will be the composition of our engine oil. We have reviewed and researched every possible chemical compound which is the best to use in our engine oil. So we hope that you will take our engine oil into consideration. With that, we thank you.